1-0, baby. Suck it. We basically gift wrapped that to you. Don't consider it anything more than luck. Don't act like you weren't the 4th seed coming into this, that we should have won this. No. We were the underdogs, and all that shit that everybody wanted to talk, look where it got them now. It was the first game of the year of the entire split. There's 13 more to go. You probably should pace yourself. Are you forgetting that we were power ranked 8th? That you were 3rd or 4th in most people's rankings? Nah, we take this 100%. Don't overreact to this. I'm warning you, I've seen this before. Don't let it happen the same way. All right, I'm done with the excuses. Who's next? Come on, bring it on. Yeah, that would be me. Yeah, I'm gonna take a break. Welcome back, everybody, to the Rendezvous, the 100 Thieves fan series that goes over everything that you need to know from the LCS and around the org each and every week. If you're new around here, welcome. If you're coming back, oh, it has been a fun ride, hasn't it? Going into the week, if you just take most people's power rankings, Team Liquid and Cloud9 were 1 to 4 anywhere within that mix, and we were almost unanimously 6 to 8. There were a few people that would put us 5th, but beyond that, like, there weren't many exceptions. So we were underdogs for all matches this week, and the fact that we walk out 1-1 is amazing. Were there signs of struggle? Yes, obviously. We're a young roster. It's not going to be clean, and anybody expecting anything otherwise, which I saw like comments of people saying, Sniper ain't it. Bro, it's 2 games. 2 games. There is nowhere near the amount of games necessary to form any sort of opinion on anything. At the end of the split, maybe let's talk. But if you walk away from this week anything other than excited, you simply are not paying attention in my mind. Or you just hate 100 Thieves and want to see our downfall, either way. So let's get into the games. Starting with the Team Liquid series, the draft was pretty interesting right from the jump. When you pick up Yone, Seraphine, and Karma as your first big 3, it's like, okay, bot lane isn't going to be what we thought it was going to be. The whole point of this comp was just to get to late game to the point where you stick as 5 people, and the healing and shielding that comes with this comp is more than enough to just allow Sniper to take over, allow Yone to take over, and Seraphine obviously does a buttload of damage anyways. You just have to survive, which against Team Liquid is not necessarily an easy feat. Granted, we had pretty good advantages in mid lane, where Quid had a very good game against APA's signature Zig pick, which fantastic that we can beat that. Now we know we don't have to ban it next time we face them. Quid was, I think, like 20 CS up at one point and was like the clear early win con that would help bridge us into the late game, because that's exactly what happened. Sniper got pushed out on Riven against Udyr, which it's very apparent now that anytime you go against Udyr, you're just gonna get shoved out of lane and there's almost nothing you can do about it. Unless you go Vayne top, which I'm not opening that can of worms. Sniper fell behind early in lane, but was able to come back and carry late game whenever it mattered most. The combination of River's Vi with the Yone ults and Riven, it was potent. And we saw that in the fight towards bot lane. After Team Liquid had already got Dragon, we were very proactive in trying to get back into the game. We had a few moments where we nearly threw it, but hey, we had resiliency and quick decision making, which if you've been a fan of 100 Thieves for longer than just this year, you will know that is not something that we have ever historically had, whether that was with the championship winning roster or even last year with Doublelift and Bjergsen. Like, the ability to come back from behind was never something that we were ever historically good at. So the fact that we nearly threw it away but had the resiliency to hold on and swing it back in our favor by making this amazing TP flank dive onto the Jhin was great. There's a little bit concerned about bot lane getting behind early, which I'll get into that when we discuss individual players and lanes here in a minute after the C9 game. But overall, that's the LCS. A win is a win, and there were lots of positive signs in addition to some of the bad signs that, yeah, we walked away with this like, we can probably beat some of the middle of the table teams if we play like this. The problem though, C9's not a middle of the pack team at all. And it was very clear from our draft, even though I didn't really care for the Nautilus combination with Senna, we were drafting for late game. It was hold on for dear life, try and make sure that we don't lose this in the early to mid game, and then we win whenever we scale, which is a very common theory that you see tested against top teams, where it's like, okay, we're not good enough to beat them in the individual lanes and the individual situations, so we're gonna give pretty much everything up, draft for late game, and as long as we make it there, we win. That is our best statistical chance at winning this game, and we clearly fell into that philosophy because you're not going to be able to beat Varus Karma in lane. We're going to get shoved in. Gwen, not good enough early to be able to push out Udyr. The only lane where you would think we might have an advantage would be in the mid lane, where it's Nico against Akali. It's more of a skill matchup from what I've been told, and Quid unfortunately lost it. Jojo Pyun looked absolutely incredible. So our bridge from the early to mid game to late never happened. We kind of just fell apart. And what is a Nocturne going to do against 3 lanes that are getting pushed in? Dive them? Well, the problem is when everybody's half health or lower, it's not like you can even really dive either. And then we fumbled the play top lane after Sniper got caught out. River dies as well, and it all just kind of collapsed from there. We never really came back. There were a few moments where we got some team kills, but even then, like, it was very bluntly clear that like we were playing from a deficit the entire time. It never really had a good chance at snowballing it back. But hey, again, it's C9. It's the best team in the league. Let's talk about these individual lanes though, starting with bot lane, as Jordan noted here, that should we be worried about coaching staff's choices of champions that we're seeing in bot lane so far? And my answer is no, I don't think so. There's 2 trains of thought that you can take whenever viewing our bot lane picks this weekend. One is that we think that mages are incredibly strong, so we put the Seraphine and the Karma together to obviously scale into late game and just utterly smash. So long as you don't lose lane hard, you're ultimately fine. And considering they were playing against an Ashe and a Jhin, a lane that should pound us, and we did notably die a few times early on, we, for the most part, held on enough to be able to be relevant. So they played the role that they were supposed to play in that lane very effectively, which is good. The next game, whenever you get stuck on Senna Nautilus, it's not bad until you realize that you're going against a Karma Ashe. Really, my nose starts bleeding on camera. This is not what I meant by bleeding red for 100 Thieves. Jesus Christ. Anyways, you can't look at the stats for this bot lane and get any sort of confidence in this. When you look at the numbers and you're just going to assume that Meech is the worst bot laner in the league, and by the numbers he technically is, at least pre-15. But then you look at the champions that he's playing and it's like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, the number that stands out the most is the experience difference, which again, the gold's going to change based on like champions that you're playing, but you would think experience-wise, you would scale up a little bit faster, or at least like hopefully be ahead or even with your lanes, but we're not. And again, that's the nature of the 2 lanes that we picked into the comps that they were played against. I want to see how Meech plays in a lane where they actually get advantage that's not the Lucian Milio or Lucian Nami, and see if they can actually win a bot lane. But it's clear like that's not where the resources are going right now. The resources are going into either Quid or Sniper, which could be a result of scrims where maybe they're doing better and maybe the bot lane wasn't doing well in lane. So you put them on these band-aid champions to try and just hold it over so that it's at least manageable. But maybe it's just because we genuinely believe these comps are the best in the game. You have no clue, and we'll find out as time goes on, but I wouldn't overly worry about it yet. It's 1 week. The patch is going to be changing this upcoming weekend, which could affect everything. Who knows? We could start playing through bot lane more. Only time will tell, and I'm not worried about like us playing one specific style to start off with. I'm assuming a lot of these players in this roster, per Golden Glue, like they want to keep them around for a long time. So you need to have adaptability and flexibility of who's able to carry at what times. So no, I'm not ultimately worried about this bot lane or any of the champions that they're on. Going to the mid lane is interesting because when you just look at game 1, Quid had a very good matchup against APA. Now, APA seemed like he had an off day as well. I will fully acknowledge that. As game 2 and Sunday for Team Liquid was noticeably different than their series against us, or their match against us. But Jojo Pyun is the reigning MVP for a reason. I think he got robbed of Player of the Week. It went to Blabber instead. I think Jojo Pyun just played his lanes incredible all weekend long. But already the fact that we're seeing Yone and Nico whenever a lot of other people are picking Azir and Corki is really interesting, because we already know that Quid's style that he likes, or at least that we've seen him play in Champions Queue and other areas, is some more control mages. So like in Orianna, he's decent at Azir. We saw that last year. Corki, we don't know about yet, but like there's a lot of champion diversity that he clearly offers this team, which I really like. And if he can keep winning lanes, then sure, when you look at this upcoming weekend, who he's going against, then Palafox and Dove, I mean, Dove is the matchup that, again, I'm looking at like, okay, can you beat him? Palafox, I do expect to go even or win that lane a little bit. Palafox, I think, is just one of the best mid laners in the league, even if he's not better than Jojo Pyun at the moment. So yeah, you got to beat those below you and try and keep it close with the ones above you. Wasn't able to keep it close against Jojo Pune, but maybe he can do it against Palafox. Bro, it is so nice to have River on our team. You have no idea. To have a Vi that actually does Vi things like he did in game 1 against Team Liquid is great. It felt like anytime that him and Quid were aligned on a play, they went in together and it worked out incredibly well. Their synergy was amazing. And River truly did help facilitate a lot of the plays that we saw in our game versus Team Liquid that allowed us to win. You give him a lane to play through and he will obviously amplify them very, very well. The problem was when you look at the C9 game, he's playing Nocturne and dealing with 3 losing lanes as we mentioned earlier. So we kind of neutered him before the game even started, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I guess compositionally, I mean, good that he's willing to take a back seat and try and get to that level 6 point, but unfortunately the lanes around him lost and there was nothing he could do. There was no impact that Nocturne really had on that game whatsoever. So really not much that can be said there. I don't know, River has me excited. There's not too much to say about him. He just looked good whenever he had the ability to look good. And the one that people are gonna talk about in Sniper. Got his signature Riven pick to start off, which, hey, is a dangerous game. When you're picking your champion that you are most known for, think about Adam's gods of Garen, Olaf, Darius, but regardless, when you get those champions, you have to win on them in order for them to be prio bans for the other team, and it does open up some flexibility in draft for you. His Riven did get pushed out by Udyr, which we kind of figured would happen, but he had some pretty nice impacts in the mid to late game. However, he did notably get caught twice, and Azale even called it out on broadcast that this is very solo queue style mistakes, which again, you expect from a player that is young like him. I'd rather him make those mistakes and be willing to try stuff and learn from it, as long as he learns, that's all that matters, than not try stuff. If he stopped trying just because he was scared, that TP flank that we had onto the Jhin might not have happened, because then he gets hesitant to pull the trigger. So again, same thing that we said before, keep up the confidence. Now he goes on the Gwen pick and is facing off against Fudge. You could clearly tell the nerves were there, specifically on that dash over the wall that he missed. That was not good. That is a simple mechanical error that can't happen, but he's young, new to the stage, higher pressure environment, they're behind and losing pretty bad. You feel like you have to do something, get a little bit ahead of yourself and you mess up the first step before you can even get to the next few. Shit happens, it is what it is, you move on. I think anybody overreacting to his performance in game 1 and 2 is just simply wrong here. This dude's got a multi-year career, and anybody making determinations on how he's doing based on those 2 games, or just saying that he's not it, I'm sorry, but shut up. Org news time. There's one big piece of news that came out this week for 100 Thieves, and that is that there's going to be a new dedicated Twitter page for the League of Legends account, which I know scares some people with the separation of individual esports from the overall entity of 100 Thieves esports. But I will just say this, I actually think 100 Thieves is kind of late to this trend. They started with their YouTube channel, but they didn't do it with any of the other social platforms, where clearly there is this delineation to just okay, we want different channels for different purposes. We can't keep mixing and matching League of Legends stuff with other stuff. From a YouTube algorithm point of view, it definitely makes sense. From a Twitter point of view, I mean, I would argue it definitely makes sense as well. You want your individual silos that then can lead up to the overall organization. So I'm fine with this decision so long as there's a ton of content coming out, which we notably already got. And yes, we did get a special appearance in that video, which is freaking wild to be tagged immediately. And I had no clue what was going on until I saw it. I was like, oh, yeah. But we noticeably got comments from the 100 Thieves staff as well saying, yeah, you know what, the players are going to put in the effort and so are we, which is good. If you're going to start new channels, whether it's TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, anything, you have to put in a ton of work and be consistent with the amount of stuff that you're tweeting out. Believe me, as somebody that's trying to climb on social media, I understand the number one thing you can do is just be consistent. Whether you're winning or losing, you gotta post. And it has to be true to your brand identity, and I'm not getting into all the marketing crap there, but on to quick fan questions first. How does 100 Thieves performance affect LeBron's legacy? I would argue that it helps it. When you're in LA and part of the Laker organization or just the LA bubble, there's very high expectations for you. Even when the ceiling is high, you still have to shatter it. And you know what? A win here does nothing but help it. For those that don't understand this reference, it's just nonsense. Ignore us. Finally, let's preview the upcoming week. We end our gauntlet run that was 1, 2, and 3 in most people's power rankings with NRG on Saturday, and then Sunday we do face Dignitas, who's sitting at 1-1 and actually looks pretty decent. So if you want to not be a bottom feeder team, the simple answer is this. If we can once again be close against NRG, that's good, but we have to beat Dig. This is the first game where I feel like there's actually going to be pressure on the players to perform. We've been playing with house money so far, and the fact that we got to win against TL is good, but you have to beat Dignitas, especially when there's only 14 games in the entire season. You have to do it. Starting with NRG though, the problem that we're gonna have against them is the fact that NRG can play through any lane. I've watched both of their games from week 1, and the first game they tried playing through bot lane, and then the second game they put Dokla on a carry and then bot lane on Senna Tom Kench, which if you're a 100 Thieves fan, you know that FBI Senna is pretty good, so I actually think that might be a pretty high prio pick in this series. I keep saying series as if it's going to be a best of 3, it's a best of 1, the game. But the thing is, NRG could give resources to any lane to carry, so it's going to be very difficult, at least in my eyes, to prep against them. You don't know what lane they're going to give carry, so it's going to be important to see, depending on whether we're blue side or red side, how adaptable we are in draft. Like, do we come in with a specific game plan, or is NRG gonna have their run with us where, you know, we get 2 or 3 picks and we're very readable what we're gonna do and they're able to pivot and just stomp us because of it. I think draft is gonna be incredibly important in that game more than any other this weekend. And again, just getting better in lane. Like, that's gotta be the #1 thing that we continue to work on, because we can't always play these comps that scale into late and just sack lanes, because then teams will know that and eventually punish us. So we have to get better in lane, whether it's by picking more early game champions or playing our late game champions in lane better. So again, keep it close versus NRG. River versus Contract should be fun as hell to watch. It was all last year, so it should be good again. And Sniper versus Dokla could be very volatile, and I'm excited for it. What will be even more volatile though is Rich versus Sniper. Rich had an up and down week 1 where one day he looks amazing, the next day he kind of ran it against Dokla. Dub so far has looked good. XU, I think, has been the standout player for Dignitas in both of their games, despite them losing to NRG. So I'm looking at River to keep eyes on him the entire time. And this is the game where if bot lane's gonna step up and give us an advantage, I think their bot lane is the weak point. You wanna prove that we got some muscle in bot lane, that we're not just gonna roll over and you can get advantages on us every time. This is the game to prove that. So that's it for me for the week. That's my preview. Obviously, a good week this past week. I'm hoping for about the same record upcoming. If we can get through these first 2 weeks 2-2 going into Super Week, I think everybody here is going to be happy. Again, only goal for the season is to get in the playoffs. Get us in the best of 5s and then just give us time to develop. That's what we need most. So finishing top 6 is the only thing that matters. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to drop a like down below and I'll catch you on the next video. Adios.